What's up? I hope you're doing absolutely phenomenal today and you're more than excited to talk about money. Because sometimes we don't realize it, but no matter how much you try to avoid it, money is very important, and we live nowadays in a world where money is important. If you want to live a freedom, if you want basic health, money is important. We cannot deny this fact, and rather, instead of denying this fact, I would rather seek knowledge and understand what money is and where it comes from. And that's exactly the question I want to talk to you about today. The question I want to talk to you about today is, what is money? Fucking throw shit in the trash, bro. Way better. You know, money is commonly defined as a medium of exchange. And while that's true, I don't believe that this answer gives us and tells us too much about what money really is. I believe a better way of looking at money is as an expression of value. And this word value gets thrown around all the time. But what even is value? Well, the best definition I could find on value is this. Value is created when pain is alleviated. Now, in another word, pain. How do we alleviate pain? We alleviate pain by solving problems. And that means all money really comes down to is solving problems that alleviate pain and therefore create value. But now, who decides how much money solving a certain problem is worth? Because you could be solving a problem for another person, and the other person could perceive solving this problem and the pain you alleviated through solving this problem less valuable as you perceive it, and you expect this person to pay you more than they actually are willing to pay. Well, it's a fantastic question to think about, because it highly depends. It highly depends on the person who's paying the money. And let's take an example here to illustrate this thought more clearly. If you see a mastermind for $50,000, and this mastermind right here, this mastermind educates you on how you can sell high-ticket products through a sales funnel and sell them through a webinar that makes you $500,000. And now, additionally, this mastermind is hosted by the industry's leading entrepreneurs. Now, if you're a normal employee that lives paycheck to paycheck, you would think that this price of $50,000 for a mastermind is ridiculous. I mean, $50,000 for a mastermind where you just sit in a crowd with random people and listen to someone talking on a stage? But it isn't just that. You see, what we call expensive and cheap is highly dependent on our income. Because we do not buy things with money. We buy things with the time and energy that it takes us to make that money. Let me say that again. We do not buy things with money. We buy things with the time and energy that it takes us to make that money. In one of my next videos, I'm going to cover the topic of vibrational frequencies and how energy moves within the universe. Now, what we also need to understand right now is that money is energy. But why is that? Because the third law of thermodynamics tells us that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only be transformed. And that's the same with money. Money itself is only valuable, and you perceive a dollar as a dollar because you believe it has value. And what that means is that the strength, and the durability of a currency is highly dependent on people. So communities that invest their human resources, so time, energy, and attention, which is really all we got, into this currency. So coming back, that means for an entrepreneur, for a business owner who sees the value in what we just said, the mastermind, and he sees the big problem that's going to be solved. You can't even see it. Mastermind. The big problem that's going to be solved by attending this mastermind. This decision to spend $50,000 on a mastermind is a no-brainer for him. And again, he has the opportunity to make potentially way more than $50,000. He could make $5 million off of one webinar. But for the normal person, if they see a mastermind for $50,000, which is a yearly salary maybe for them, when they see this price, they only see the price and not what's in it. not what problem is fixed and what problem is solved through this product. So what this example tells us is that what we are willing to pay for something is highly dependent on how much time and energy it took us to make that money. And how painful the problem is right now in our lives that the product would solve. It is not about the cost of the product. It is about what not knowing the information that is provided in that product costs you. And think about it. We don't buy things based on their real value. We buy things based on the perceived value that we assign to it. A very widely spread belief and saying around the world is that money is the root of all evil, which I disagree with. But let's think about this for a moment. If you see a person who has a lot of money, the first thing that most people will think is, oh, they got lucky, who had to lose for them to gain, who did they take advantage of? But what they never think is, what value was created in order to generate that money? And understanding that money is merely a representation of value, we can now understand that money itself isn't necessarily evil. Sure, there's scammers out there who convince you that what they have to sell is worth it, but that doesn't say much about money itself. It tells us more about the morals of said person. What money really does is money simply gives you more options to choose from. And what you do with that money, however, shows and exposes your true character and what values you hold. Money is nothing more than an amplifier of who you already truly are. That means if you're evil, you just gotta use that money to do more evil. But the same goes for the opposite. If you're good-hearted and you have humanity benefiting intentions, that is what gets amplified. So now that we understand it isn't so much about the money itself, but way more about who you are as a person, your true character, your true core values, and who you think of yourself to be. Okay, cool, but now that we know all this, how is this going to help me in my life? Let me tell you. And to do that, I want to ask you a question to think about first. What is your relationship with money like? Money will come into your life and it will leave, constantly moving and constantly searching for the magnetizing people that attract it the most. And this relationship is often expressed by our expenses and our income. But a better way to think about this is, because I'm big on being a creator, not a consumer, is being production versus your consumption. Most of the time, money will enter your life because you have produced some form of value to the market, which for most of us is jobs. And money will leave your life when you have consumed something like a new car, a new house, or any kind of subscription. Now, to understand this concept of producing and consuming easier, I drew out a simple graph right here. On this graph, you can see two Excels. One Excel showing the money you make in a month. I just took from 0 to 10,000 plus right here. And on the other Excel, you can see time. So months or years in, depending on how fast you scale, right? Now, what the top line here represents is your monthly income. And the bottom line is your monthly expenses. And we can see there is a gap right here, right? And our goal is to grow this gap as far as we can. And this is pretty simple. There are two ways you can already see them. There are two ways where we can essentially grow this gap. We can either earn more to grow this gap because our expenses are here, earn more, or we can spend less, or we can do both. But for most people, this graph doesn't look like this so much because they tend to spend more than they earn due to credit systems. But I don't know too much about credit systems, so if you know more about credit systems and all this, please comment down below. Now, let's just say that these two blue lines are the average, so the average guy. And as I just told you, there are two ways to increase this gap and to grow this gap. And let me take a green pen right here. And our goal, as I just said, is to make this gap right here as big as possible. And now that the gap has increased, so this right here, so now that this has increased, we can take percentages of this gap to invest because we don't want to stack our money in the bank and just leave it laying there. And as we increase this gap, and start to invest it into our retirement savings, an emergency fund, or into ourselves, which at my age I believe is the absolute single best thing you could do. And I believe at a certain time like right now, going all in and risking everything is my only option. It is the only option I have. Because I'm already broke. What do I have to lose? What do I have to lose besides going all in? What do I have to lose? And so we want to repeat this cycle over and over again. We want to earn more and spend the same, or we spend less. Because we work for money that is spent on meaningless stuff. When you, look, take a red pen here. When your expenses, your monthly expenses, exceed your monthly income, so you're essentially not making profit. Your monthly expenses are like this and going over what you earn. And the things you buy with that money are meaningless, unnecessary shit. Then if you spend less and if you spend the same even, then you save the money for this meaningless bullshit, and you save time, because the money you spend on meaningless bullshit that you don't even need, when you don't do it anymore, you not only spend money, but you spend time, energy, and attention that would instead go to your work. Because where we do not want to be is us earning, let's say, $200,000 a year and spending all of it, because we have a spending problem. And if you know you cannot afford something and you still decide to purchase it, as we just saw in this example, you cannot afford this, bro. If you buy, not leasing or renting, if you buy, let's say, a house for $500,000, right? And you cannot afford it, but you think to yourself, well, this is an investment, and in time, this house that I'm gonna buy for $500,000 now is gonna be worth, I don't know, 1.5 million, because the housing market is gonna boom. You cannot afford this, bro. You cannot afford this house. And I don't know your specific example, but based on your earnings, you cannot afford something for $500,000. And if you still decide to purchase this, if you still decide to purchase something that you know you cannot afford, you're just stealing from your future self. As long as it is something that has nothing to do with your future, that has no benefit for you in the long run, and you just bought it because out of impulses, because you wanted it, is very high risk. Is very, very high risk if you have no constant and if you have no consistent and high cash flow coming in. When you have no cash flow, that means what you earn, the cash flow, needs to exceed your expenses at all times. And I know there are periods of development in business when you gotta invest more into something and you gotta earn more so that your earnings can catch up. But this is not the case. But to stand that point, what money is, and having this chart in mind, having this graph in mind, I believe the smartest thing you can cover now is how you actually reduce your expenses. Because when you have a spending problem, it doesn't really matter if you earn more, because you're gonna spend all of it. So the first step we gotta take is reduce your spending, and you solve the spending problem you have. So now we can look at the net worth of an individual. Let's say I'm not gonna tell you how much I'm worth, but let's say I'm worth $100,000. I got $100,000 liquid in the bank. This net worth, my net worth, is the reflection of the relationship between my consumption and my production. Now consider this for yourself for a moment. Think about all the money that has entered your life and left your hands at some point. How much of that do you still have in possession today, or invested in some kind of appreciating assets? And another question which exposes where you really fall short is, which part of this equation between production and consumption do you think needs improvement? And most likely the production side. So production versus consumption. If you ask yourself what side, the production side or the consumption side, needs improvement on your side, most likely both. But the problem with our society, with the Western world, we all know this, is overconsumption. Overconsumption of media, overconsumption of status symbols that we don't even need, overconsumption of food, anything. So your relationship with consuming must be fixed first before you even consider the production side of things. And there are a lot of people that talk about this concept of escaping the rat race. And usually the people that use this term, the rat race and escaping the rat race, are usually the people that want to sell you a high ticket product, a 997 product, on how you can get rich quick by using this one method. And people that tell you to disguise every normal 9-to-5 job. But if we really think about it, there's nothing wrong with working a 9-to-5 job if you want it. Because as we just saw in the example, you can make $500,000 a year and still be on the financial edge because you have a spending problem. And when you make, let's say 100,000, when you make 100,000 a year and all you do is spend at the end of the year, you have zero left. You are dependent on your job. You are dependent on the income you have with your job or with your business, and you are a slave to it because you need to work and you need to hustle every single month to get the money that you just blow. And I believe that we should not symbolize the typical 9-to-5 job as the rat race, because there are actually people enjoying their work, they're enjoying their jobs, and they're doing great work. And we need those people. We need the people that work these normal jobs, because I believe we should rather see and we should rather look at it and say that the rat race is if you live one paycheck away from being broke constantly. So as we just said, if you make 100,000 a year and you spend all of it every single month, you spend everything you got. Let's say you make 100,000 a month even. And every single month you waste and you blow all this $100,000 in 1 month. That means you live one paycheck away from being broke. Because not even it is blowing money. Maybe your fixed cost and your lifestyle inflation is so through the roof, so disgusting, that you spend this money fixed because of subscription, because of car payments, because of mortgages, anything. And we already talked about the 2 ways to avoid just that. And it's managing your personal finances. Because most people only focus on bringing money in, so wealth creation, but never focus on the back end. And the back end is how to preserve, how to manage, and how to multiply your wealth, which is actually the slogan of Capital Club. If you know, you know. You don't want to be the guy that always needs to hustle to get money. And then when he gets the money, he doesn't know how to keep it. And you just lose it immediately. And over time, you keep on bringing new responsibilities in your life. And this relationship between production and consumption gets even more dangerous. Because one simple, small, unexpected event like losing your job, health crisis, family problem, anything with health related, anything could destroy your whole life and wipe you out of existence because you didn't plan for it. So now, even though I'm not at a point now where I move big sums of money yet, I believe understanding money, how it is created, how it is moved, learning how to manage your own personal finance is a basic requirement if you want freedom and if you want to stay away from this dystopian reality we just talked about. And the first thing that we need to do is we need to become aware of how we act. How do you act as a consumer in society? Confront our consuming habits and what we spend money on. Secondly, after becoming brutally honest and brutally aware of how much and in what ways you spend your money, take control of this spending habit as a consumer and introduce a budget. Now, what is a budget? A budget is you planning and you seeing things that you expect and you plan to spend on your fixed cost and sticking to it. And with introducing this budget, you also need to introduce an emergency fund. Now, what is an emergency fund and what is emergency saving? I'm not an investing guru, I'm not an investing coach, I'm not a finance coach, I'm nothing. I just want to learn how money works and how money moves and what money even is. So in my understanding of my level of knowledge, an emergency fund is money you set aside every single month that is separated in a different bank account or stacked anywhere that you do not touch ever. And this is for emergencies. It's not for when a friend asks you to lend him some money. You do not touch this money. It's for emergencies, real emergencies. And this emergency fund should cover 3 to 6 months of your living expenses. So your income is cut off right now. And you don't have any money coming in. You don't have any money. And then this emergency fund should pay and should be there for 3 to 6 months of your living expenses. And what I don't want to do with this video is tell you that buying all these expensive cars, watches, houses, or whatever is bad or you shouldn't do it. But ask yourself, for what reason? What are your priorities? Do you just want to buy these things so that other people see you as wealthy? Because we all care so much about what other people think of us. What is your reason? Why do you want to buy these things? If you think everybody cares about you and you buy these things with the sole reason of flexing or some shit. Well, in reality, no one cares about you and me, my friend. Maybe your mom or your daddy, but that's it. Or do you buy these things? Do you buy these things just because you have hundreds of millions of dollars, or you buy these things for yourself because you deserve to be rewarded? You deserve to reward yourself with these things. And you love, for example, driving in fast cars. That's the thing you love for doing for fun. Having nice watches, wearing them around, without making any of these status symbols them a part of your identity, part of your personality, and being dependent on these symbols, on these material items. So let me ask you, do you care about appearing as though you have wealth or actually having wealth? And now that we talked about how to regulate your expenses, it is also of very, very high importance to talk about making more money and making money by creating value. And there are a million different ways to do this, but the best way that I could find is online entrepreneurship. And this isn't anything new to you, at least I hope it isn't, because online entrepreneurship and making money online is a decade-old industry. And it from the basic principles, it actually doesn't much differ from real-world entrepreneurship. It's just way more scalable. The barrier of entry is lower and minimal, and anyone with an internet connection and a brain on their shoulders could actually do it. So what does that mean? That means, one, you need to find a problem in the market. And the market is just a group of people with the same problem. Then, two, is you need to find a solution to this problem that the market is facing. And you can provide this solution through a course, a product, physical or digital, or a service like done for you, or any kind of consulting. And number three, after solving the problem for yourself, fucking hell, this is not the bird pencil, fuck that. This next one is flying away. Trash over trash over trash. Number three, after you get a problem in the market, you identified a problem in the market, you created a solution for this problem, you implemented this problem and experimented and tested with this problem in your own life. So after solving this problem in your own life, you sell this solution that you have to other people at a mass scale. Which in today's world means being able to attract an audience online, being able to form an educational but conversational relationship with the people that relate to your message. Because if you think about it, we all consume content on social media, and all these people essentially say the same thing, but the way they say these things, the messaging is different, and so we relate to different people. And that's also what I'm doing. That's what the biggest, the most profitable, the most known brands are doing. And this is what the future of business is looking like. It's not only about building AI businesses, it is about building businesses with AI's help, but which are irreplaceable, which AI cannot replace, at least in the next coming years. And in my opinion, the things that AI will not be able to replace in the next coming years at least is human relations and communities. So understanding people and understanding human nature would be the first step here. And so if this sounds anywhere appealing to you, I would love to see you join me on this journey. And leave a comment below telling me your perspective on all these things, on what do you think is money, on what you think the future of business looks like, and what do you think, how it could be to protect ourselves from AI, how can we use and leverage AI to go into the future with certainty. Looking forward to seeing the next one. Till then, have a great day, a phenomenal day in fact. Create.